You ever felt like you got more than one personality inside of you? Like more than one voice inside of your head talking to you all the time? No, they don't. Yes, they do. No, they don't. Yes, they do. Everybody has a little bit of multiple personality. So what we're going to do in this video is I want to show you how to get those voices in your head and actually get them to work with you and help you to achieve your life, and how you can get them to work by your side. No, they won't. Yes, they will. No, they won't. They will. Stay with me. So these parts of yourself that talk to you are actually called personas, and in this case we're going to call them archetypical personas. The word archetype basically is a universal stereotype that at any moment in time we actually sit into. For example, as I sit here talking to you, I'm actually the teacher. I can also be considered the instructor or the mentor. Or if you ever have anybody ask you, what do you do? A really cool way to answer is to think about all of the different facets of things that you do in your life. I remember I was at a party a couple of years ago and a woman came up to me, as they do, and asked me what I did in my life. And I said, well, when? I said, this morning I was a chef, this afternoon I was a lover, tonight I'll be a dancer. So at any moment in time we sit into these universal stereotypes or these archetypical stereotypes. So right now as you sit here listening to me, you're the student. You see, a universal archetype or stereotype. So we basically develop these personas when we're very, very young. And for example, we become the student when we're young, we become the joker when we're young, we become the teacher when we're young. And we develop these to actually protect ourselves, and they occupy certain parts of our minds in certain situations and circumstances. Like when you're a child at school, you would become the student, and for a number of years, you're basically in that archetypical stereotype in the classroom. The difficulty is that some of these archetypes can overtake, and the reason in which they overtake is the first thing you have to understand is the reason they turn up in the first place is always to protect and assist you in some way. But let's say, for example, you ignite the archetypical critic at some point in time in your life, and the critic turns up to protect you. I remember a circumstance when I was very young. I watched my father give out to my brother, and my brother was being given out to because he had a go at me. So what happened was that I started to criticize myself in order to protect my brother, and I started to have a go at me in order to protect my brother. So whenever I was doing anything funny, my archetypical critic would turn up inside of my mind and say, don't do that, who do you think you are, that's a silly thing to do, your brother's just going to get into trouble, da 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 da. And then what happened was that the more I spent time in my family dynamic, and the family dynamic is known as the tribe, the more I spent time within the tribe, the more this critic inside of my mind would have a go at me continuously. But as I got older, I was so used to the voice inside of my head that I thought it was actually the voice of reason. And as a result of this voice inside of my head occupying so much time, I believed it. So I used to listen to the critic was always talking to me all of the time. A couple of weeks ago, I was introduced to someone that really, really helped me to separate that part of my psyche. And what she did was she just showed me how to turn the critic into someone that was going to assist me. And we all have these inside of our minds. We all have these archetypical stereotypes that are operating all of the time. Like, you might have this saboteur. You might find in relationships that you sabotage relationships frequently. So as a result of that, the saboteur is very awake and alive within your life, and you don't even know it because it's, you just hear the voice all of the time. So you just think that that's your normal internal voice or dialogue. So if you find, for example, that, you're always beating yourself up or giving yourself a hard time, there's a really, really cool exercise that I'm going to give you now that you can do to actually separate that part of the archetype and actually turn it to work in your favor. So I want you to understand that this voice inside of your head is a separate entity to you. It's not actually you. It's a fractured part of the you that does not make the whole of you. So therefore, because it doesn't make the whole of you, it's not you. So what I want you to do is I want you to contemplate which archetype it is for you. Like, it might be the judge, or it might be the condemner, or it might be the saboteur, or it might even be the critic. And I want you to stop and grab a piece of paper and pen. And this exercise is designed just to stop those limitations that go on inside of your head. And grab a piece of paper and you just sit down, and I want you to basically acknowledge why the critic turned up in your life, or why the saboteur turned up in your life. And you want to acknowledge them and thank them for the time that they've spent in your life. You want to look at how they've been of service to you and really contemplate what they showed you, what they turned up in your life to actually do, and how they actually helped you. Then I want you to stop, and on the same letter I want you to also acknowledge how they've been a disservice to you, what it is that they did, and that the things that have turned up that have hindered you or stopped you from having fulfilling relationships, or building your wealth, or strategizing your life correctly. You know, how the saboteur might have screwed things up with your, you know, with your family relationships, or maybe screwed things up with, you know, with your personal sexual relationships or your friendships, and really stop and say, look, this is the pain and the disservice you've actually been causing me because you've been occupying my mind so much. Then what I want you to do is, in the same letter, I want you to get that archetypical stereotype to work with you. So I want you to think about what are your dreams and aspirations, and ask the saboteur to actually help you. Rather than getting in the way, start to point the way and start to really say, okay, this is where we're heading. I want you to, every time that you turn up now, from now on, I want you to actually help me to get there as quickly as possible. Rather than having a go at me, I want you to actually assist me and acknowledge how I'm smart, intelligent, switched on, awake, aware, loving, inspired, and really think about and really acknowledge that and help that archetypical part of your mind to actually assist you to achieve your dreams and aspirations. So as I said, archetypes are very important in our lives. They play a natural part of who we are. So stop and actually get that archetype to actually work alongside you. This is a really rich exercise to assist you in achieving things in your life. Now I want to continue this conversation, and how I want to do this is in the comment section. I want to ask you, what is the archetype that occupies your mind and space and time the most? What is that one voice, and what would you label it? And even if you don't know what it is, just drop into the comment section the conversation that seems to be continuously happening in your head, and we'll try to help you out by letting you know which archetype is actually occupying your mind and space and time. If you've loved this information, please feel free to share it as usual on Facebook, and let's get to the comment section and let's kick off a good conversation. Take care. Bye-bye.